The Hole's Journey is the latest film by Amsterdam-based Moroccan artist Rita Skali. After an earlier installation version presented at the Atelier, The Hole's Journey has its world festival premiere at IFFR and marks her first appearance at the festival. Omar Berrada is a writer and curator. He is the director and co-founder of Dar Al Mamoun, a library and artists' residency in Marrakesh. He is co-editor, together with Ito Berrada, of album Cinémathèque de Tanger, a multilingual volume about film in Tangier and Tangier on film. Abu Bakr Jamai is a Moroccan journalist and entrepreneur who created the new web-based news service lacome.com, which is currently banned in Morocco. He is a recipient of the International Press Freedom Award of the Committee to Protect Journalists in 2003.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Ghita.
Hi.
It's nice to see you and have a chance to converse with you about your film, about The Hole's Journey, which I have watched twice, and I have a lot of questions. And maybe the first one is that I have seen recur in your works that I have had a chance to witness or see or think about, is that you seem to always foreground something like a negotiation or relationship with institutions, right? It's not a work that you exhibit somewhere. It's a work that you make for a certain context. So they always questions the context in question. In this particular instance of The Hole's Journey, for instance, one could think about the expectation of an artist like you know, a woman from Morocco exhibiting in the Netherlands, to bring something of Morocco to the exhibition space, to show something to the European audience that would give them some information or some understanding or some I don't know, to satisfy some fantasy of what Morocco is about, right? But you seem to be doing the opposite. Like you take something from the Netherlands, from the institution, the wooden floor of the director's office, and you pack it up and you send it to Morocco. It's kind of an inversion of that art circulation. And I just wanted to hear about a little more about that. How did it come about? Is it something you've done in other works? And how do you think about it more generally?
Yeah, I think I started to question this art circulation a little bit, a long time ago, because I was born, I grew up in Morocco, and then I studied in France, and it was this simple France Morocco trajectory that I was kind of stuck in. And already in my studies, I decided to go to make an exchange in Egypt. And just by creating a triangle in a place where I wasn't a little bit, let's say, expected to be, as young Moroccan having to go normally to a Western country. So just making already this step aside helped me to question this art circulation. Then, of course, more recently with the international debate about restitution, the right of African country to get back artifacts and objects that were stolen. I wondered how can I also question a Western history of art by deciding to create an artifact in a Western country, but also to, let's say, to connect it with the local history of art. As in the Netherlands, there is many conceptual artists of the 60s and the 70s who did a lot of artworks about floor and the notion of floor, and Jan Diebets, Ger van Eyck, and all these white men, heterosexual, really dominative in their way of thinking art for me, and who are locally well known. And honestly, I never heard about them before 2019, and my life was great before knowing they exist. And I didn't find that I missed something. And I think they're also really, for me, getting in this hegemonic Christian symbol of the artist, the genuine in the neutrality of the studio, making arts. And then I was, okay, how can I also, a few years later, work about a floor and decide to not leave it in the context of the Netherlands, to not leave it in the context of a Western institutional critique, but to link it with something else, with another context, and a local struggle in Morocco.
Ghita, if I may, I have a very simple question first, and this is a question which might have many answers, but I'd like, of course, it's your answer that counts. What was the impetus? What if you had to single out one reason or one major, core cause to this film? What would that be?
Well, hard question, because I think there is also, in my practice, I always go on a rhizomatic way of not really wanting to classify my informations. But yeah, I think if there is one big thing, is maybe it could be how do I think the role of the artist, and how naively I hope that we can do something about it. How can we raise questions together in a different way? And especially in the question about this topic of injustices, how can I produce images that go further than the pornography of the misery? How can I produce images where I can step aside from a victimhood narrative? This is the goal, I think. As I don't pretend I managed to do it, but at least I really have the desire to try, because I think we still have so much to do on how do we create images about local struggles.
Okay,
go ahead, Omar, please.
Go ahead. Okay, just as a follow-up on the same issue, actually, I was wondering if if working in the Netherlands or working through a Dutch institution was helpful in this regard, right? Like, how do you, because you started talking about circulation in the art world and maybe inverting the usual circulations. And you spoke in your first response about Dutch artists working in a studio on floors. It seems to me like your practice is exactly the opposite of working in a studio in a way. It's like affirming art as a radically non-autonomous sphere, right? Art has to be in relation to reality, politics, struggle, etc. And so in a way, I was talking in my first comment about your relation or negotiating with the Western art institution, but that's only like a small part of the issue, obviously, because it's also using that negotiation or that institution or its floor or whatever it is as a tool for an intervention into what you call the local context in Morocco. So I'm wondering, like, is that a necessary mediation? Like, is the wood floor of the Dutch institution a kind of a Trojan horse of some sort for an intervention into another context? Could you have done it otherwise? What is the role of distance and mediation in all of this?
Yeah, as you said, I think my work is always taking in consideration a context. I don't think I have any project or any artwork that can be taken from my studio and then hanged somewhere. I'm always producing something which is, let's say, a current obsession that I am mixing with the invitation, the institution, and where always I try to situate from where I speak. Again, I think I'm really in this kind of lineage of history of art from Griselda Pollock. I think artist is a job as any others, and I just do it, and sometimes I have desire to do it. And when I do it, it's not because I have a genuine hand making anything. I do it because I have a specific background and I speak from a certain situation. And this background, of course, is a gender, is an identity, is my date of birth, and where I am, and how did I get enough privileges to study abroad and to be also validated by an art world where I can negotiate. And I think these negotiations are tricky, funny, and also shows a big contradiction, I think, how the institutions are always loving institutional critique. That, you know, there is a fashion thing on institutional critique, but then there is the exercise of doing it, and how, for example, it will be easier to propose just a critique of abroad, a critique of Morocco. But then when I decide to connect it with the local context of the Netherlands, it starts to be tricky. And I think it's where it's really interesting me, how the institution in the same times wants me to do that, but in the same time doesn't want me to do that. And yeah, I think it says a lot about how we are not that far from what was happening in the 60s and the 70s at the end. But
Ghita, you have mentioned the fact that you wanted to avoid an image of victimhood on the Moroccan side. So basically, as I understand it, is what you're trying to achieve is restoring some kind of agency to the people who are there, and that they can do things, they can shake things, they can advance their causes, etc. What should we conclude in terms of what audience are you targeting? First of all, do you have an audience in mind? Are you talking to someone in particular in doing this, or not? Or are you basically putting it out there and it's basically for everybody to watch, for Moroccans from various social classes, for the Western world, etc.?
Yeah, I think it could work for both. I think first, because now we're speaking about a festival happening in Rotterdam where the main audience will be at least living in the Netherlands. I think I tried to create a link about what could be the expectations from a Western art scene, a Western art world to me, and also to make these links, what is the link between an international art institution and the local struggle, about how there is so many fantasies about a local struggle, and how maybe I can try to do something else about it, as just people in a tribe suffering from an injustices made by the state. So I think there is this first, and then if we can speak about the Moroccan audience, I don't know, it's again how I don't pretend that I have, maybe it's really naive to say it on this way, but I don't pretend to have answers. I'm just really raising questions. How can we do that? Which is also what is really happening in my video. At the end, I don't manage to go to the tribe of Let's Ghita. No one managed to go. But, there is this absurdity of not giving up. And by just, maybe by telling the process, we can discuss about it. I think the fact of not going says already so much about the context without even COVID or anything.
What struck me, if I may, is that the film is very situated, if I may say so. I'm way out of my comfort zone here. That's not my field at all. So please forgive me if I say something really stupid. But it's very situated, because you talk about your relationship with Omar, and it's a common friend. Omar is like my, very good friend. I worked with him.
This is a different Omar.
Yes, I know. Yes. No, you're safe in New York. The Omar I'm talking about is in a cell in Ukasha in Morocco. So that's the Omar I'm talking about. Omar, that's the journalist you mentioned in your movie, and you say that you were working with him on the issue of the on land ownership, which is a heavily loaded subject in Morocco, because it's a major, it's really at the center stage of corruption in Morocco. And I remember having with him this discussion where we said that to the most subversive thing to do in Morocco is simply to investigate the ownership of the land, because so many corruption happened there. So my point is that it's very situated. You're talking about an individual who's in jail because I think, it's debatable, but I think because he dared to address these problematic issues it's very situated because you have a personal connection with this person, and it's in the news as we speak. You know, this is the big debate. If you go to, you know, the press currently speaks about Omar and all the people who have been jailed recently because probably of their political positions and because of the criticism of the regime. So my question is how, and this is why I asked you about the audience, because for example when you keep using the song by Berrada, I don't remember the title of the song, but the refrain is very well, the lyrics are very well known. The shock was strong, and I know as a Moroccan it has a lot of resonance with me because I grew up listening to this song, and I don't know how a foreign audience will react to it because yes, they're going to see the subtitles, so they can understand the meaning, but I'm not sure, you know, whether it would resonate with them the same way it would resonate with us. So when you mix that with the fact that, and completing the notion of agency, the fact that you have this tribe, you want to reach out to this group of, you know, people who are living in the countryside, which of course means that they are, you know, in the lower ranks of society. How do you think your art will resonate with this audience, you know, with these people? Will it resonate from an artistic standpoint? Will they see only as, you know, as some might say, the politics of it? Do you think, by the way, my point, I guess, is, sorry about this long-winded question, but my point is the politics of it are so heavy. Aren't you afraid that it will basically stifle the artistic dimension of it? That's I guess my point. Or my question, sorry.
You know, my first intuition was really to make this experiment, to get this floor, this authority wood from the Netherlands, and to go to Let's Beta with it and to see what could happen with it. So who knows? Maybe I was able. I don't know if it's happened, maybe I was going to be there and people will just tell me it's not interesting, leave us, or maybe, oh no, then maybe it could raise questions that are interesting about who owns a land, who can have a land, and what does it mean to have a land. But all that were fantasies I had in my studio in Amsterdam. And this experiment, I would love to do it because I think it's where it's interesting. It's where I try to connect my art to realities and how these realities nourish my art. Then in 2020, this didn't happen because, yeah, as you said, Omar went in jail, not alone, as also Mate Munjib and many other people. And this is a reality of the Moroccan context today. So it's, and also it's why I really wanted you to be here for this conversation, because I know that for land predation and you know so much about this topic, and there is a big issue on, even at the end, I don't say that much in my video, but it's funny how it's raising already all these questions. And yeah, I would love to show this video here. Let's see if someone will invite me to do it, if someone will do it. I would
have loved to if I had remained in Morocco. But
yeah, but then you are not there anymore. And yeah, it's the thing about who is there locally. And I would love to do it. I would love to show it, to confront it here to this audience, and not just the people I know that I sent them the link. I would love to see how we can raise conversations about it, to hear comments and critiques about it. How maybe I had to do things differently. How could I involve people in another way? I would love to have that.
Yeah, to follow up on this question of the audience and the intended audience and who sees and who understands what. I mean, obviously there are a number of ways in which you could have narrated the video. You chose to do it in the Moroccan vernacular, in Darija, at least for most of the video, because there are some incursions into French that are interesting at various moments. But I wanted to know if that was a choice from the beginning and if there is something that informs that choice. And just to stay on the question of, because it goes also with these other vernacular references, of course, the music, the songs, Shab and Belkhiyat and all of that. And on the question of language, I was struck also by the amount of it. It's the narration is there all that you speak a lot, like it's as though you're wanting to telling us a lot of things, but it's also said, especially at the beginning, it's very direct and clear. I mean, in a way, right? It's like speaking to some friends in some way, as much as it is giving information. So I'd like you to say something more about the use of the language, and also the kind of the mode of address. How do you imagine it? Do you imagine it as telling a story? Do you imagine it as just it's an open question.
Yeah, in the beginning, I tried to write the voiceover in English, and it didn't work at all. It was so heavy. I didn't feel okay with it. And then, yeah, I always have this, let's say, this kind of a condition. As when I do art, I like when for example, my mom or my dad understands it, which doesn't mean I'm gonna speak with them as if they were children or they know nothing about art. But, just when I do things, I like when people around me can understand it without knowing that much about history of art. And so it came naturally to say the story in Derija. And then, of course, it was, oh, should I translate? No, but then I was, okay, it just came like this. And concerning, of course, yeah, this video was part of this show in Amsterdam, and then went to another show in Florence. And I think the comments are really interesting, as how, for example, some people will be more touched and interested by all the party about the tumor, or others will be more concerned about the pictures taken by my mom that she's sending me on WhatsApp. And I think, as you said, there is so many things that I think it's fun at the end that everyone seeing it can get something from one part on it. Others, when they watch it, they just they keep in mind the Omar stories, and that's it. And others, it's just the tribe. And yeah, it's really full. And then also about the amount of informations and layers. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, let's say that, my first, I'm kind of coming back on how I studied, but I studied in a French art school in the beginning before moving to Germany and then to the Netherlands. And in the beginning, I was always, I am an artist who doesn't know how to think with images. I just know how to think with narratives. And I needed time to be okay with that. And then, yeah, it's fine. It's also my background. I grew up with that. I grew up with Hilqa, with my grandmother, with everyone around me spending hours saying stories. And yeah, I don't know how to think with images. I think with narratives. And yeah, it's what I'm proposing today. And I think, yeah, everything goes from a story.
Can you say something about how you put the narratives together? Because, I mean, it's fascinating how do you say, the work, the film is porous. Everything can enter into it, right? The story of Omar Radi, the story of the wood floor, your sisters, the tumor, your mother, everything. It's open, it's fine, it can contain everything. It's amazing to think that the entire film, credits included, is 16 minutes in retrospect. So I'm interested in knowing how you put it together in terms of editing. How do you work on your montage, right? How do you compose the story for somebody to receive it? And in asking this question, I'm reminded of what do you call them? Your mind maps, these kinds of diagrams that are sometimes huge murals where you draw connections between ideas and facts and things. I don't know if there is concordance or a similarity between that work and the work of editing a video, for instance.
Yeah, of course, it was a crazy mess. I think the first edit of this video was 1 hour and a half. It was a crazy mess. The mind map of this project, Authority Wood, was taking, I don't know, a wall of 10 meters long on 6 meters, as it was just a crazy mess. And was everything on it. I think it's just an extract of an extract of an extract, which is 16 minutes. But it's also, I really think on mind maps. And I think it's my way also to stand against a certain hegemonic linear way of thinking history. You know, there is a beginning, there is an end, and I think it's how dominance always told us history, and it's not the truth. I don't classify my informations. The song of Belkhiyat and the song of Shab are as important as the tumor, as Omar in jail, as the rumor, and I don't want to have the power to classify, and a rumor as a song, as a reality, a real event have the same value. And then I'm just trying to cook something with all that. And of course, when I try to cook something with that, in the beginning, you cannot digest it at all. It's a mess. And then it's months of cleaning. It's really months of just taking out. Yeah.
I think just to build up on this, I think one question that any viewer asks first when he watches your or she watches your film is, what is the guiding narrative, right? And it's at least for me, when I try to come up with an answer to that, then you start wondering, am I just projecting myself into this? And I think it's one of the beauties of art in general, because there are also tests. You see things that other people don't see, that are informed by your own life, that not the artist's life, but your own story, your own. And let me share with you what I try to get from your movie. What I got from it is this is someone, the person behind this work is someone who's an immigrant, and who's but an immigrant, really an immigrant, not a second generation or third generation, because you can see that with Belkhiyat, etc. You have to have lived in Morocco to get the resonance of this little signposts along the trajectory, and so even it has something. There was a poetic dimension to the images, to the pictures that your mom would take of the TV, because to me that's how I got it. It's when you are outside of your country for a long time, and your people who are stayed there, they try to convey to you what the country is. And it's never exactly what you expect, and it's never exactly how it is exactly, because it is how they see it. And sometimes it's tilted. Sometimes it's that's how I understood it. The metaphor of the whole, my initial, and probably it's what you had in mind, I'm not sure, but this is what happens when power elites don't change. When you have in an authoritarian regime, the same people ruling for a long time, you end up with this damaged wood, right? But then also you have you have this connection with the let me inject a little bit of my discipline into what you did. There is this notion that one of the reasons Morocco did not explode socially, it's because despite the poverty, etc., it's because of the remittances, i.e. literally the money that is sent by people like us, you living abroad, sending to your families, and that's around $6 to $7 billion a year, and that goes directly to help people. Most of the families of the immigrants are poor families, so they survive, and that's the metaphor I extracted myself from the wood, going back home. And finally, I also, there are other things, but I'm gonna limit myself to these ideas. I don't know if this is something you had in mind, but this is also a heavy criticism of the West from an economic standpoint, because when you talk about this Ard al-Jumu'ah, collective ownership, and I happen to work on these issues, and I had this discussion, by the way, with Omar a lot, is that one of the ways the West disrupted our societies is exactly by eliminating the legal nature of land ownership, because collective ownership allowed many families to live on the same land, and to maintain it. Once private property was instilled, then it destroys, not only it led people losing their land, but it disrupted the whole social construct of these societies, all the solidarity links that exist between people. And by the way, not only in Morocco, you know, the Chiapas revolt in Mexico in 1993, 1994 had to do exactly with this issue of eliminating collective land ownership. So I don't know if you had that in mind, but I have to inform you that your film is also a stinging critique of capitalism. So in case you didn't know it, so at least that's how I saw it. I don't know if you had that in mind.
Yeah, of course. I think it's why also I choose particularly the extract of Omar when he's speaking in Democracy Now! About how the collective ownership was cancelled as in the law in Morocco recently, and how it's putting thousands of people in a crazy, they lose everything, their job, their lands, and with really low compensation, or sometimes even without even compensations. And yeah, I totally agree with you. As the collective land for me, it was always funny to explain this concept in Western countries. You know, what is a collective land? You know, it's common, it exists. You know, it's tribes. And yeah, so I totally agree with you. And then it was also this thing of how, I think, in the beginning it really started with a joke, you know, why a director will stay as a director for 23 years. And as you said, it means the elite is not living. And, you know, even the wood was tired. Even the wood said it's enough, you know. So if the wood is tired, what is about human beings? You know, what are we going to say? And then it's about how to take this small land of wood, this small part of wood from one white man who was there for 23 years. And naively hope that I can maybe try to do something with it collectively. Maybe I can use it to say the story of many people. It will just be an excuse, you know, to say the story of others, which of course didn't work again, because it's just finishing with some plants from the area. But yeah, I think it's, I totally agree with you. And then I'm happy that you saw that, because I think also about what you said about the mom sending pictures. It says a lot about how we live from different spots, and then how do we still try to create common contents and to share that. And having her sending pictures of a garden in Amsterdam to me, which is already in Amsterdam, is why, you know, someone can see here just a portraiture of older people trying to use technology. But I think it says so much about just sharing when there is 3,000, 6,000 kilometers between us.
Yeah, to stay with your mother, because I think she's one of the stars of the film, obviously. But I mean, I was touched with what you were just saying about taking this piece of wood from, you know, this one white man, the one director, and trying to do something collective with it, you know, disrupting this vertical authority, you know, individualistic authority of power and all of that. But in the passage about your mother sending you pictures via WhatsApp, it starts as this kind of tender mockery in a way, you know, of what she's doing and what she's saying. But then it ends on something which I heard as very poignant, and I wrote it down. You said, "I wonder why my mother's images are not in a museum." And you start wondering about, you know, what is the status of these images, and something that one could call the right to art, right? Who can be in a museum and why, and in what circumstances. And I was really interested in that. I'd love to hear you say more. And also, I mean, in thinking about it now, I'm thinking also that within the Dutch institution, the only person we see is not the director, is not a curator, it's the carpenter. It's Frank, right? Who also starts, you know, feel like there's this little also tender mockery, right? He's there, he's making faces, he doesn't know what's going to happen, it's taking too long. But he becomes one of the heroes of all of this as well, in a way. So I'm interested in this kind of seeing things from below, from the floor, from the ground up, in a way.
Yeah, I think Frank is such a charming character. It's so funny. For me, in the beginning, I met many carpenters in Amsterdam, and the day I saw Frank, I was no ways it's him, because there is something about this old white body struggling in the beginning with the Japanese soul, and it's endless. It's endless. And, he's in his hole and he's not giving up, but we see that his body cannot really follow, but he doesn't give up. And there is something really, of course, funny, but touching on it. And yeah, of course, as we just see Frank, we don't see, I will never show Jan Dibet or Ger van Elk or any one of these men. I will not show them, or the director or the official technicians or someone inviting me. I don't care. I'm happy that someone who is even, he's not defining himself as an artist. Yeah, and he did that because first time I met him, I told him about the story. He found it funny. He found it funny to make a hole inside an institution. And he came. Then, of course, he ruined the floor, which was a mess for me with the institution. You can't... Then Frank wasn't allowed to come back anymore. It was crazy. Anyways, so but then it says again a lot about, as you said, how the movie maybe, yeah, it's a critique of capitalism. Here it's really showing how, even let's say in the Dutch context, it says so much about social class and how Frank is not welcome in the institution, And and concerning my mom and the question I'm raising about her, it's, yeah, I grew up in Casablanca. The only museum I saw, I think it was when I was 12 years old or 13. Yeah, 13 years old, when the school took me to this museum of Maroc Telecom in Rabat, where I saw old phones. I didn't know the concept of a museum, and knowing that I'm already coming from kind of a bourgeois family, privileged, where we had painting at homes, and I knew what art was, but the museum, no. I think first time I went to a museum, I was 16 or 17, and I'm not saying that as if it's something I missed. No, I just grew up with other images and other things. That's it. But the Museum of Phones, it was hell. I hated it. This was my first relationship to a museum. I don't like this space. For me, it's a cemetery. And then, of course, I was living abroad. I started to make art. And then I think, yeah, I was always questioning myself as who are the women or people from the territory I'm coming from, that I can use as references. As, okay, there is, even let's say more in modern art, but okay, Louise Bourgeois, Nikit Saint-Phal, but okay, I heard about Shaibia, Etal Adnan, but then where are they? Of course they existed, but where are they? And why I don't have access to these informations and to these people? I think it's why also maybe subconsciously I moved to the Middle East for a little bit, but I was kind of trying to find my references and people from former generations. And then I was, okay, it's not because they are not in books that they don't exist. And my mom, as my aunts, are artists. And I don't need, and yeah, museums don't validate what they do, but I think the images my mom is sending me on WhatsApp are perfect. And they are better than many images I saw inside museums.
If I may, one thing that came to my mind as well, and this is something I've been thinking about since the start of what's called the Arab Spring, and because what I had in mind was really Spain, and you probably you know about the movida in Spain, and how the end of the dictatorship in Spain in 1975 led to this explosion of creativity, of culture, Almodovar, etc., etc. And to me, I was really waiting for this to happen. And I think it's a testament to how things did not turn out how we would like them to turn out, that you have produced this film with this content, right? And that it has been done not in Morocco but outside of Morocco. I think it's a testament to, again, to the fact that the situation is still very, very complicated, to say the least, and to be very polite. And we need that. We need that dearly. I think that art is part and parcel of of politics, really, in the good sense of the term. You know, I always cringe when people say, no, this is art, this is not politics. And to me, when art is not, but that's me, when it's not politics, it doesn't, by the way, which means when it does not say something about why we live together and how we organize our relationship with each other. That's what I mean by politics. I'm not interested, you know. So from that perspective, were you very aware of first of all, do you agree that this is heavily loaded politically piece of art that you have produced? And after achieving it, do you believe that it has this you know, this political potency or not?
No, I think, you know, as I don't define myself as an activist or yeah, I think, but in the same time, I think that the personal is political. And I think, yeah, you spoke about an era that was, I think, I'm really young, but the 2010, 2011, the movement of the 20 February, or this, yeah, all that was so important in the, for me, and I learned so much through it. I think I learned, as many people, a lot of, yeah, let's say, how to be more hopeless also, but it was also amazing moments where I think I will never be, where also I think my, yeah, it was, yeah, I think it was amazing to dream collectively, and it's so powerful. And Omar, as you said, who is in jail now for almost 150 days, as, yeah, he was one of the people that I met. I knew him from really before, but how in 2011, 2012, it was this amazing moment where, yeah, and I think the video maybe, yeah, it's more a testament about how there is still this naive desire to do things, or thinking that we, all of us, have a responsibility and we have to do things, we have to speak up, but in the same time, we're wondering how we could do it, because the techniques and how we did it before didn't work. And what happened in the 60s and the 70s didn't work neither. And so how can we, and I think maybe it's because also I'm an artist. I think it goes through how we do images and how do we produce images and to speak about injustices. And yeah, I think it's a naive attempt to do that. Land predation, let's say, okay, I read your articles and Omar's one about it, but where can you get information about this topic? How do you do that? How can we create image, you know, narratives which are, again, not the victimhood narrative around these stories? And yeah, but as you said, it's also something really collective. And I think the movie is a little bit, yeah, hopeless about that, but there is still the big desire to try.